are getting all the nutrition they need, because a lot of times we're just on the go, and who knows if they're getting, we try to eat our 3 servings of vegetables and fruits a day and protein and everything, but this is just a good little insurance policy to make sure they're getting what they need. And they contain 100% of the recommended daily amounts of 15 vitamins and minerals that are essential for healthy development in little growing bodies. So they are totally approved by my kids. They're great. I mention it to all of my customers when I'm talking to them about the vitamins. I just say, hey, do you have your kids on vitamins? And oftentimes they will say, oh yeah, they're on these like gummy ones from Whole Foods or Vitamin Cottage. And I've heard actually the gummy ones are terrible for their teeth, and they can cause like cavities and stuff. So these are a great non-gummy option. Maybe mention that to them. And it looks like he's sneaking a few more on the way out. So anyway, they're just that good. So definitely recommend, and they're only $16 and you get 120 tablets. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melanie. And thanks, Sawyer, for your participation. Glad you like them.
Yep.
Next up, clearly kid approved, right? So next up we have Sarah Slutz, who's going to share her 30-second product story with us. Thanks, Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Rachel, for asking me. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I just have a quick 5 seconds. I had a really rough day at work today, and Rachel reaching out to me and wanting me to hop on this call, that just became the highlight of my Tuesday more than it usually is. So just that's the kind of the power that this has. So just thankful for that. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit insight into my product story. So I started Isagenix, gosh, it's been about 18 months ago now. Holy cow. And before Isagenix, I've always been kind of a fit person, an athlete, pretty active. But I never felt like I quite achieved the results that I should. I mean, I was working out a lot. I was eating clean, what I thought was clean. And I just couldn't quite get the results that I felt like I should be getting. So when my best friend, Lauren Donahue, shared Isagenix with me and I got started, my whole world just kind of changed. The only thing that I changed in my regimen was what I was eating, not my workouts or anything else. And as of last summer, I got in the best shape of my life. And I thought about it. I can put my before and after photo in this event page because it was just really powerful for me to see what I could accomplish. It really just opened my eyes to what I'd been missing. So now, of course, now that I've been there, I know what that feels like and I know what I can do. I know there'll never be a day that goes by that I don't put this food in my body. So just absolutely love Isagenix, and thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing, and we're all here with you to support you. I know it's been a rough day, so love you and thank you.
Thank you.
And then last, I'd like to bring up Laura, who can share her business story with us. Laura, are you there?
I am. Thanks, Rachel. Yes, so before Isagenix, I was working part-time, working a part-time job in ministry. I really wasn't making a lot of money. And menopause had really caused me to go from a size 8 to a 10 to a 12 to a 14. I was exhausted all the time, living on 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. And beautiful Jen Fechter introduced me to Isagenix over a year and a half ago. I was super skeptical and really concerned because about my budget. But literally within 3 to 4 days of using the products, I realized I didn't need the coffee to wake up. I wasn't falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night, and the weight started falling off. So after losing 30 pounds, people started asking me what I was doing. I didn't realize that I could make money helping people do what I had done, but Jennifer showed me the way, and my business started to grow. Now I'm on the Eat for Free program. My husband's on the Eat for Free program. I'm cycling every week and hit the 5 cycle bonus twice. I just really feel blessed now to be able to help my team learn how to rank advance and get their own business off the ground. So it's really been a lot of fun. So thanks for letting me share.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. We're so excited for you.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, I love hearing the stories, and I loved our little Munchkin guest speaker. That was a cute little touch. So this is going to be fun, you guys. Tonight I'm going to kind of interview Rachel, and we're going to just kind of talk about a little bit about her journey, a little bit about, her wall kicking moments, the consistency, just things that it's really taken for her to get to a 6-figure income with Isagenix. But before we do that, and she's going to start out by just kind of sharing her story. For those of you that don't know Rachel, because some of you do and some of you have been with us for a while and some of you are brand new, I'll let her share her story with you and kind of what her background was before this. But she is my sister. She was one of the very, very first people to join me in this, mostly because I had a belief that she didn't have yet, but she wanted to support me. And she's my big sister, and she was kind of always the go-getter, overachiever, and it has been really fun to just lock arms and build this side by side and go through all those growing pains and this journey and success and all of it together. So I'm really, really excited because I know there's going to be things that come out in this call that are going to be new to me and really inspirational and relatable to all of you. And sometimes it just takes somebody going first, and we say leaders go first, to really be able to kind of lay the groundwork, the expectations, and the vision for what lies ahead. So I would love to bring to the call 3-star Golden Circle, our newest Start 1000 Crystal Executive, Rachel Mayer. Will you please just start by just telling us your story, not the 30-second story, but like your real story that everybody needs to know.
Sure, and thank you, you guys. I would not be here if it weren't for Lauren, and I am so grateful every single day that she came back so fired up to share this with everyone, because none of us would be here without her. So I'm super excited about this. I was introduced basically, obviously, by Lauren almost 4 years ago, just over 3.5 years ago, and it was something that she had known about for several years, but for a variety of reasons hadn't got started with it, decided it wasn't for her at the time. But when she made that decision, she vetted the company, she heard all about the products, definitely researched the heck out of it, and came back fired up beyond belief. But she really needed someone to have a true product testimonial, someone who would try it, that she knew, that she trusted, who could say, does this stuff even taste good? Is it going to work? I truly believe in it, but I need you to give me an objective experience. And I had trusted her, obviously, for years. I had had a number of health issues and things that I had worked with her on as a nutritionist, and she had helped me go through diet after diet. I had done the elimination diet. She had taken me off this, put me on these supplements and whatever, and had gotten to a point that I was feeling pretty good, but there were still things that weren't right. And I was working really, really hard to achieve certain health goals and not really getting the results that I wanted. And so I said, sure, I trust you. If you think these are great products, I'll give them a try. Sure enough, like probably everyone on this call, literally within days, I was through the roof with more energy than I'd ever had. I was sleeping like a baby. Stress was rolling off my back. And the weight that I had been working on for years to release literally melted off my back. You guys, I'm a fitness instructor. At the time, I was teaching 15+ hours of classes a week. I was eating fully organic, non-GMO, paleo. I mean, I was doing everything right, and nothing seemed to really work. And so I was blown away. I went back to Lauren literally less than 2 weeks later, and I said, I don't know what's in this stuff, crack, but every single person needs to know about it. And at the time, I knew that it was a direct sales company. I knew it was network marketing, and I had a very, very negative impression about it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was working as a hospital administrator at a hospital in Denver, Colorado, 80 to 100 hours a week, having my doctorate in clinical psychology. I was well over my head with student loan debt and no time whatsoever. But I believed in these products, and as a healthcare professional, I just started telling people about it, and I said, I don't know, but you can go see my sister and she'll get you hooked up. All I know is that you need it. Go see my sister, she'll get you hooked up. And that's how the first couple of weeks started. And unbeknownst to me, of course, Lauren was helping to build the business, making me the enrolling sponsor for the people that I was referring and sharing this with, primarily because I just wanted them to have the best results that I was getting. And I ended up with like a $600 check, or, on our ISA wallet cards. I said, well, what's that all about? She says, well, you referred your husband and your best friend and a couple of other people. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I just wanted them to feel great. But if I'm going to make some side cash, of course, that's a win-win all the way around. Well, a couple of months later, she insists, and I'm telling you, if anyone insists that you get to an event go to an event, because as much as I did not want to go, I didn't have the time, I had every excuse in the book not to go, she pretty much made me go, and I am forever grateful, because that New Year's kickoff event in January of 2014 literally did change my life. I know it's somewhat cliche and we say that, but I came back fired up with a passion that I had never had to do something big. And I saw a vision for myself and for my husband and I larger than anything I had ever imagined. And I quickly began to realize that it wasn't going to be 65 or 67 years old when I would finally retire and finally be able to travel the world and finally be able to live life and get out of the day in and day out, go to work 15 hours a day, come home, eat dinner, and go to bed. And so that journey pretty much started about 3.5 years ago. But in that process, it was slow and steady. I mean, at the most, any given work week, I was able to put in maybe 10 hours a week. And we'll talk a little bit more about this probably as Lauren asks some questions, but it was slow, and it was just in the pockets of my time, and it was any 15 minutes that I could get in between meetings. It was on my drive home from work. It was while I was at the gym. It was early in the morning getting up and staying up late at night, whatever I could fit in, to send some text messages, to call people, to follow up, to set those appointments. And over time, consistently, the income continued to grow, and I was paying off my student loan debt. You know, again, $200,000 in student loan debt is a crazy amount of money that Isagenix was supporting every single month. And I was helping more and more and more people, which just continued to fire me up, because that's why I got into it first and ever to begin with. And the more people that were having these results, the more I wanted to share. And literally, you guys, in the last 3.5 years, I've helped more people with Isagenix than my entire almost 20 years in the health and wellness field. And at the end of last year, December of 2016, quit my 10+ year career job to move to Mexico. I currently live in Rosarito, Mexico, to do what I love full time, which is now Isagenix. So it's been an awesome, awesome journey. Definitely not always easy, which we'll talk about, but incredibly rewarding. And the only thing I can say is stick with it, and the sky is the limit.
That's awesome. I love it. And it's been really fun to just see your growth and see your belief change and the people that you've helped and just the opportunities that have showed up because of this. And you guys, we collectively kind of compiled some questions that we think would be most impactful for you tonight. Know that these are in no specific order, and they're probably going to be a little bit of overlap, as we're kind of going through, and, Rachel's kind of sharing her story, and we're just kind of trying to literally have her pour into exactly what this has been like and exactly what it took to get to this point, and really, especially in the last few weeks, building that momentum and just like kind of committing to hitting Start 1000 and what that kind of looked like. But Rachel, one of the things that I'd love for you to talk about right away is just like the importance of never quitting, and staying consistent, even if you're coasting. Lynn Hagedorn says that you can go from the fast lane, to the medium lane, to the slow lane, but like you never exit. And not only the importance of that, but what were the, top things that you could maybe say you were the most consistent about that, attributed to your growing business, even if it was on the slow and steady track?
Sure. Yeah, and that was probably one of the very first videos that I ever remembered watching was David Wood's Never Quit series. And one of the take-home things that I got from the very first event that I went to was, if you stay in this long enough and you play the game, it doesn't matter if you can do it in 6 months or if you can do it in 6 years or in 16 years, it's still going to be way faster than retirement at 65. And it really didn't matter, because in the process, you're always growing and something is always happening. And I really understood that. And I think one of my biggest hangups with network marketing was that all these sort of false promises and false beliefs that people would make millions of dollars, or they would earn all this stuff in such a fast amount of time. And clearly nothing comes, anything that good, too good to be true cannot be that great. And so I really believe that when I saw this with Isagenix, that with hard work and with consistency, it will pay out for anyone. And I knew I was going to be in that boat. I knew at the time that I was working a lot of hours outside of this, and I definitely wouldn't have the time. But if I remained sort of on the road, like Lauren said, and just never got off and never exited, it would come to fruition. And it absolutely did. And what were the biggest things for me, I think, were absolutely always getting to events first and foremost. And whether that was our weekly, which started as a wind down Wednesday with just Lauren and I, and slowly grew over time to up to 50 or 75 people at an event, and sometimes just one or two of us, unless I absolutely could not make it for some inexcusable reason, I was there. And it didn't matter if I had 0 people coming or if I had 10 people coming, but every single time I was there and someone else was there who shared their story, that got me back into action every single week to want to keep sharing and to not lose that momentum if I was getting no's or if I was getting resistance in any sort of form or fashion. And then bigger events, of course, quarterly, getting to our ICUs and University in Action, Celebration, and NYKO again, because then you're in the bigger environment, which consistently continues to build your belief. When you're doubting yourself and you're saying, can I really do this? Is this going to happen? You see another person, you meet another person that you friended on Facebook who's a real life person, someone actually like you, and you say, if they can do it, I know I can do it. And it continues to just foster that belief and build that momentum and fires you up. Plus all of the training. You just possibly can't get as much training unless you go to those events. The other biggest things I would say is just always talking to people. There was a big shift early on for me when I got outside of my own head. The first 6 to 9 months were really hard, even though I wanted this for other people and I could share to some people. There were a lot of people that I would never even consider reaching out to or trying to, I had this really big fear about being a salesperson. What would they think about me? What would they think about me in network marketing? And there was a moment, a very clear, distinct shift when I realized this is not about me. And as shy as I was growing up and as lacking in confidence as I had growing up, at that point, it didn't matter anymore. If I cared more about someone else, I had to get out of my own way, get out of my own discomfort, and learn how to do this because I cared more about them than I cared about what they would think about me. And so I really learned that skill, and I learned to talk with people no matter where I went. If I heard anyone at the grocery store or at Starbucks or at work or whatever it was, say something where I knew we had a solution, I learned how to open my mouth and at least get a phone number, at least connect on Facebook so that I could follow up and introduce it to them. And one of the hardest ones to this date is Christina Amaro, who's on our team, who was interviewing for me. I was the director of our department, and she was interviewing 2 levels below for someone who was working for me who would work for her. And that day in the interview, she mentioned that she was struggling with weight and losing weight. And I called her that night, obviously outside of work, trying to be ethical about it, but I was like, I have a solution. And now her life has transformed drastically, 75-pound weight release. That probably would not have happened, at least not with ease, that it has with Isagenix. And then the third thing would be follow-up. So you connect with a lot of people, you get a lot of names and phone numbers, but never ever quitting on them. Unless someone has outright said, take me off your list, do not ever call me again, whatever. If it's just a no, it's a not now, and they never come off my list, and people 3.5, almost 4 years later are still enrolling, even though I talked with them when I first got started.
Those are awesome. You know, definitely the events, always talking to people. I mean, this whole thing is a numbers game, and all of us have, you know, similar close ratios. It's the amount of conversations you're having to get to the enrollment, and that's something I've seen you do. For sure, you've always did events. And the one thing I would love to add that maybe you didn't say that I was able to witness is that you always plugged into team training calls or personal development on your own. And in those pockets of your time, I know you were listening to podcasts, you know, driving to and from work, or when you were on the, you know, stair mill or whatever, but you've been consistent with learning this business, learning the profession, learning how to overcome objections, learning, you know, mindset, any of that stuff, which I think has been really, really important to you as well. So let's move here into this idea of just like your vision and why having to be stronger than your excuses. Like, what does that mean? And then if well, no, just go there. I'll ask the next question.
Okay. So this is an interesting one for me too, and I'll be just totally upfront and honest with you guys around this whole vision board, your why, really understanding where you're going and why you do what you do. And I got it, and clearly I had a vision long-term for what Isagenix could do for my future and with my husband and an early retirement and living a more of a freedom lifestyle. And I had that as a why, and my why definitely changed. When I first got started, it was to help other people, and I had this amazing product transformation, and all I wanted was other people to have that same experience. So that was initially my why. And then over time, when it changed into a little bit more of a business, obviously it was, you know, to have some additional income to help pay with those student loan bills. But the money part was really never, ever a big deal for me. And even though I saw this vision of wanting to get to an early retirement, I was comfortable enough. And I was, from an outside perspective, had a pretty darn good life. Like, no one would ever think that I should complain about it. I was extremely grateful, and I had a lot of things, and I had a really great paying job, and I'm forever grateful for that. And so I don't necessarily feel like I, maybe because it was the money that would get us to this sort of freedom lifestyle, it just, for whatever reason, it never sunk in right away. But over time, and as I got clearer and clearer about how much I hated the current job that I had been in and the environment and how toxic it was, and every time I'd go to an event with Isagenix and be so lit up in the positivity and the culture, I'm like, there's no reason that anyone should not be able to have everyone in their life just be surrounded with a culture like this. I'd go back to work, and then I think because I got into this position of really hating the other alternative, that's what eventually fired me up to say, okay, this really is time to get busy, because I don't care if my salary drops a quarter. I want enough to survive, to get out of that environment and to have the freedom lifestyle of being able to travel and give back more and volunteer and learn other cultures and whatever, which was initially the reason. But it took a while to have that transform and to change. But when I really saw it kick into gear was obviously when I made the move, when I pulled the plug, and all of a sudden I didn't have necessarily that financial security, and this did turn into a true business that I had to treat like a business, because this was not solely my income coming in. And I had that experience of what it's truly like to have that time freedom and be able to live the life by your own design and not have a panic attack Sunday morning thinking, or Sunday night getting ready to think about Monday morning going back to work or counting the days till Friday. Then I was like, okay, I never, ever, ever want to go back to that. So now I'm very clear cut on my personal why, and also how many people can actually truly have this. And it is totally available. And again, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I want it more now for other people that I've actually experienced it.
Okay, so we, what? Oh, I thought, were you going to say something, Rach?
No.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, you know, Rachel and I started chatting, and her 36th birthday is on June 6th. And for those of you that don't know what Start 1000 is, it's the first 1,000 people in Start to become a six-figure income earner, to hit 3-star, which is 40 cycles. You know, when Eric Hoover kind of created Start, he had this vision that he would have 1,000, you know, six-figure income earners, which we know we're going to surpass because we're already in the hundreds and this company is just getting going. But this is something Rachel and I talked about. And Rachel is not motivated by money. And I know that she's also not motivated by recognition, but she understands the importance of, you know, when you commit to something, you know, full time and being successful. She understands that, you know, leaders go first. She understood that she was going to have to pave the way for her ever growing team that was in momentum. And looking back, you know, and I think since the beginning of the year, the amount of time Rachel has poured into certain people and helped create new managers, helped so many people hit the 5-cycle bonus. She had a girl go 1-star, you know, people go director, and the amount of calls that she's been spending and pouring into her team, she was evolving into her leader. And a lot of this in the beginning is for ourselves, and it's focusing on enrollment. And then you get to a point where you're rank advancing others, and that's how you rank advance. But we have this idea of Start 1000. And we started looking at the weeks, and we basically had 4 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, the week of your birthday, that's on a Tuesday, so that's not going to happen, you know? And because like our commission week ends on a Sunday, you know, and I said the week before that, you know, I'm in California with you. We're visiting our other sister Napa. There's Super Saturday. I was like, you got like chunks of days that you're not really going to be able to do this. And having rank advance and knowing what it takes and this undevoted, you know, time. And then we had Memorial Weekend, you know, and I was like, well, like the whole world's out of town and camping like that weekend, you know? And I said, or Mother's Day. And I said, you know, that's not a big one. That's like one day and not everybody's moms, or that's kind of done in the morning anyways. I said, which week just feels good to you? You know, I asked her, I said, you got to feel it. You got to know. You got to be in the flow. We always say things happen with ease. I said, which one are you going for? And Rachel said to me, you know, I think Mother's Day weekend. And what we paired with that was the Crystal Director reset as well. That happened. And we knew right before that we knew we'd be in momentum, you know, that a lot of things were going to be happening. So having kind of casted that vision for the team, Rach, if you could talk a little bit about some of the things that you did those 3 weeks in a row of getting back to executive, why we talked about that, hitting Crystal Director, and then hitting 3-star, starting with the visualization in the intention statements, you know, your whiteboard, the goal setting, and this idea of just like believing so deeply that it's going to happen and kind of letting go of the how, but just doing the do.
Yeah. It is true. I think that a lot of this definitely came down to preparation, planning, getting laser focused and knowing exactly what you're going to do, what you're going to do. That's not necessarily how you're going to make it happen, but what you're going to do, and have the timing and making sure that you get so clear cut on that. And Chris, I don't know, Chris Marshall, if you're on this call, but if you're going to watch the recording later, thank you, because I think even a week or two before that, those of us that were on a Rise and Shine call, he messaged and said, hey, if you want this book, I'm going to send you something. And this book showed up, and I started reading it, and it's an incredible book. So contact Chris, he could tell you more about it. But part of that book has to do with visualization exercises. And again, going back to being very transparent, I heard in my 3.5-year journey, set your intention statements, write your attraction statements, have a vision board, set your goals, all of these things. I heard them, I understood, I theoretically could comprehend that you're supposed to do it and how it's supposed to work. But I will tell you, I've probably done it 3 times. In this last few weeks was the 3rd time in the 3.5 years. And every single time you do it, every single time it works. And you would think you would stay consistent and you would do it, but life gets in the way. And I always had an excuse, and my vision or my why wasn't strong enough to get there. But when you have a why, and when you have set a goal and you write it down and you talk to someone and you feel in your core that it's going to happen, and you truly have to believe it. You have to let go of the how is it going to happen, but know that it will happen without a doubt. No matter what, you're going to make it happen. Then all of these things really do come into fruition. But part of that book, and part of what the book that Chris had sent, was you really have to disconnect yourself. You have to be committed to the outcome, but you have to let go of the how. And I am very much a person that can be a realist and get in my head. And if I set a goal, which I've always been very afraid to do, I think about the reasons how and why it's not going to get there, or what I would have to achieve to actually get there, which then from a realistic sort of perspective doesn't seem real and doesn't seem possible. And I let go of all that. And the book that Chris had sent just said, trust that if you let go, your subconscious mind will find other answers. Other things that you would never have dreamed of will come to fruition. And so I believe that. And I felt it with Lauren, and I had set these goals down and I wrote them out, and it was crazy. I mean, it really is sort of crazy how this all happens. But these things that I would never have anticipated just sort of fell out of thin air. And it's not like a weird voodoo type of thing. It's just like when you let go of how it's not going to happen, all of a sudden these things come of how can it happen. And you become open-minded to experiences or to conversations or to interactions that you maybe never would have thought about, because you're so clear focused on what you want to get to. And so that first goal was really getting back to executive, because to be in the Start 1000, I definitely wanted to be an active exec. And I had hit it 2 years ago in July on the first Crystal reset, and I had never been able to get back there. So it had taken over 2 years. I made the commitment, and in a week got back there, made it happen. Of course, like I wasn't necessarily doing anything different except that I got laser focused in terms of the like daily method of operations, contacting people, reaching out, follow up. I've been doing all the same thing, but now I got laser focused and I was relentless and I wasn't going to stop until I got there. Then the following week was the Crystal Director Reset, which again, I had committed to doing partly for these goals, but to show people, okay, if I can get back to active exec, I can certainly do just another 1 or 2 consultants, which it was actually just 1 more that week. I was absolutely going to hit that deadline to show other people on my team like it's possible. And if you put hard work and effort into it, you can do this. And then, of course, knowing that that final week was going to be the run to 3-star, sort of everything was in place, that momentum was already building, that now we could focus just on the cycle growth and the development of other people and those orders and those enrollments going through. But my whiteboard, I posted it in our team page, constantly was changing. And every single time I enrolled someone, I crossed their name off because I could see, yes, it was another check off the list, and I would add someone new that I made a contact with, and so it was always in the forefront of my mind. And at one point, Adam Feichter messaged me Wednesday and asked me how many cycles I was at, and I almost didn't want to look, but I knew every time you log into your office, it's like right there. You can't avoid it anyways. And it was 8, and I was like, that's okay. I've got till Sunday, and I'm going to hit 40. It doesn't matter. But I was at 8. And still to tell you guys, like, no matter what, if you keep saying those intention statements, I am a 3-star golden circle with ease. Today I attract X, Y, and Z. And you see it. And I saw myself walking across the stage and with Eric Cooper and in our event next week with Lauren in San Francisco, like being able to be introduced, not for the recognition for me, but because I know that's what fired me up when I saw other people, when I went to an event that had done it, that if I do it, then I know other people can do it, and all of us will grow together as a team and help that many more people.
This is so true. I'm getting excited right now. This is the stuff that I want to, makes me want to go work. And Adam, I think that's awesome that you checked in on her and everything. And I was watching her too, and for those of you that have ever rank advanced, you kind of always say by Thursday, which is the middle of our commission week, you want to be halfway to your goal, And I got a call from Rachel, and you guys, sometimes when you say that's right goals and they're not happening, the other people say, I don't want to write my goals out. I don't want to put that down on paper because there's this fear of failing, or if they don't happen on time, and the way that we judge ourselves and criticize ourselves. And the fact is, they're going to get you there at some point or another. But when you make that decision and you just go for it, it's like you will move mountains. You can push through brick walls. And I saw Rachel do this when she first hit executive, and then never again. And there was times I tried to push her, and there was times that, there was a lot of excuses, or she allowed overwhelm to come in, or there wasn't something motivating enough. But I knew that week, I knew that this was going to happen. Like, I actually had a friend's birthday party and some stuff that night, and I literally was like, I'm just going to have to commit to being on the phone for like the next 10 hours because this is happening and I know what this looks like. And she's doing it. But Thursday morning, she had called and she's like, I think I need a little bit of a pick me up. And I'm like, okay. And this, for like a split second, like you guys, literally split second, there was this little bit of wavering in the belief, And she's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I don't know if this is happening. I think this. And I just said to her, I said, okay, well, number one, you're not doing anything wrong. I said, let's look at everything that's happened. I said, your cycles are higher right now than they have ever been. That's what we're focusing on. And I said, and I have already texted Eric Cooper, you're doing this. I want you to visualize what that Start 1000 post is going to look like when he celebrates you. I want you to be backstage with me and Kisa, at Celebration when all that firework goes off. We have to sit through that silly rehearsal, I said, we're doing it. Like, I said, don't worry about it. I said, why are you talking to me? You got to go back and talk to everybody else. Like, it's only Thursday. We still have 4 days, And that's who we were. And so I want you to talk about something really important because I've built this business on my own and it's me. I don't have a spouse. I don't have kids. I don't have pets. Like, I can do it whenever I want. So a lot of people have said, I can't do what Lauren does because I can't do this 24 hours a day, where you have had, full-time jobs. You've had, a spouse and things, but I want you to touch really on the importance of including them in the vision and including them in the business to really have the permission to put the time into this that it takes.
Yeah. That's been a huge one. And I do think timing is everything, not only for you and for your why and for you building the business, but for the people closest to you in your life, for them to come around. And everyone's going to be different. And I think every relationship and every family sort of dynamic is going to be different. And you have to know how much you can sort of push the envelope and push those boundaries where you're not going to sacrifice a relationship, but also help them to see a vision that maybe they haven't caught on to yet, but you see where you're going enough so that it keeps building momentum and it keeps hopefully encouraging and having those people come in to be a support for you. And I'll tell you, my husband was the number one skeptic and the number one sort of part of resistance through this entire journey. Actually, when I came back so fired up from NYKO, it was actually like a crushing moment because of his skepticism and how much he did not believe or want me to ever do this. And so a couple of those times when I went on the big runs and did the Crystal Exec, it was like I would tell him, hey, I just want permission, or not permission, but your support, your belief, your knowing that I'm going to go for this, to be able to go hard and go strong now, to be able to then back off. And a little bit of background history is over the last 3.5 years, we have learned how to negotiate, how to have those conversations, how to have boundaries around me doing Isagenix, him doing certain things that he enjoys, and us having our time together, which doesn't include either of those that neither one of us want to be a part of. Fast forward now to us moving to Mexico, and clearly me continuing to be consistent and build a business over time has built his belief, and he has become much, much more supportive over time, but it hasn't happened overnight. And we've had some serious conversations, and I continue to share with him all the reasons why I would do Isagenix, even if I never made a dime with the company, because of how much I love it and how much I've loved helping other people and watching their success with it. And so I do believe that if you're very open, very vulnerable, very honest, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 years, it might take 8 years, like Vinny and whatever her name is, but it will happen. I truly do believe that. And when we moved to Mexico, and this really did clearly become our sole source of income outside of our rental properties, then I think things got pretty serious, and I had to have some pretty clear conversations, and we set very clear business hours, and those boundaries had to become even much stricter. But this particular last couple of weeks with those, hitting the certain goals and then getting to the 3-star, I had a sit down face-to-face conversation. I told him, I'm starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm probably ending at 1 a.m. in the nighttime, non-stop. I'm not going to probably shower. I'm not going to be doing the dishes. But this means the world to me, and it's going to be my last ditch effort, one chance stop. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this week. Will you support me and will you help me? And I promise the whole next week we'll go, we'll take off, we'll do something. And what happened during that week was not only did I was almost in a shock, like how quickly he said, yes, okay, go for it. He said, if you're going to go for it, you better really go for it. And all of a sudden, this person who had been almost my biggest pushback, and the person I was always thinking, like, what is Aaron going to think? And what is he thinking of me? And am I doing good enough sort of for him? All of a sudden became the person giving me tips and suggestions and what I should be doing better to close the sale from a guy who's in sales. And I was like, what is happening? But I really think coming to them with such vulnerability and having that open and honest conversation was a huge breakthrough that also significantly helped with this.
You guys, I've known Aaron, Rachel's husband, since I was 15. Like, he's been in my life for like more than not in my life. That's how well I know this man. And you guys know my story and how much I struggled and exchanged time for money. I borrowed money from Rachel and Aaron consistently. I was always in a bind of like, hey, can you guys send me some money? I'll pay you back this weekend when I work. And this was the guy that absolutely was like, I was like, does anyone notice I'm not borrowing money anymore? I promise it's legit. So it has been a process of dripping and dripping and dripping, and awesome. So, Rach, I would love to shift into a little bit here of your mindset of not being a salesperson, not only with the stuff that Aaron has taught you, but also your conversation with Ashkan. and kind of how that has made an impact in your business.
Yeah. So again, when I first got started, because I was such a skeptic and I started solely for the products, and when I started to share with people, it was solely for the products and I would just send them to other people, I always told myself, and I told other people, I'm not doing this to sell anything to you. I am not a salesperson. I'm a psychologist. I just want you to feel great. I want you to have the same health experience that I have. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. No matter what, it was like ingrained, not only for me because I didn't feel like one and I never wanted to be one, and I had sort of some negative connotation around schemey and sleazy and other things, even though I know it, not always, that people think that you're doing that for your own benefit, right? And so for the longest time, that was always my story, and that's what was ingrained so deeply. And when we quit our jobs and moved to Mexico, and now Isagenix is solely my source of income, all of a sudden it sort of began to change. Like, well, I do have a product that I am selling and making a commission or a referral rebate, whatever you want to call it. And I had a conversation with this guy, Ashkan, who is Anushka Ganji's fiance, soon to be husband, who is a top salesman, top insurance salesman. And he basically said, why do you not want to be a salesperson? You should be the most proud salesperson on the planet. You have an incredible product that's life-changing, and people need what you have, and the only way they're going to get it is if you sell it to them. Salespeople are only bad if they are scheming, if they're sleazy, if they're doing it for you. But if they are a good person who wants to build a relationship with you and has the most vested interest, your own interest at heart, and they're helping you to find the best deal or to get the best solution or whatever it might be, that is the best person you should have in your life. And you should be proud, and you should stand 10 feet tall and not even think twice about it. And then it came to, if I really want to help people, and if I really want the people on these products to get the health transformation or to generate the wealth and have this financial time freedom that I'm now experiencing, I have to get better at closing the sale and getting them on the products. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we know what it's going to do for them, and they don't quite get it yet, right? Until you put the products in your body, it's so hard to convince or persuade or get them. So you have to figure out how to be that best salesperson so they can experience it and know that it's for their best interest, and not because I'm going to make another $25 PIB or hit a certain rank advancement. So I really had that big mindset shift on how I envision myself and how I portray myself with Isagenix, and then realizing that if I am going to sell Isagenix, I have to learn how to do it. And I've never had sales experience. I've always been a psychologist who just sits and listens, and I'm not that person in my mind. And so I started to read, and I got tips and suggestions and figured out a couple of even 2-3 liners that drastically changed. I got 2 or 3 enrollments that week just from a few tidbits that I'd gotten from Ashkan and from my husband. So I just realized if I commit to another 6 months of learning just how to have some good one-on-one sales techniques, what can happen?
So cool. I did a couple of times. She called and I said, what would Ashkan tell you right now? I'm going to go to Ashkan and tell you right now. And it was fun. Okay, so we've got just about 10 minutes left, and I want to kind of combine 2 questions, and then I'm going to leave you with one more. But I want you to talk about this idea of kind of just constantly putting positive energy out into the universe, you know, and kind of knowing it'll come back. And if you can combine it too with just the constant personal development and growth, and, you know, just kind of that journey of working on yourself before you can kind of work on other people. And I'll have one more question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually on another call listening to Jessica Regner last night, and she was talking a little bit about this, and it's so true. But for the longest period, well, I mean, in general, we know that our thoughts control our emotions, which then can control our behaviors. And not necessarily that one necessarily leads to the other, but they're all interconnected, our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors. And you can tell the moment that you wake up in the morning, if you're on the wrong side of the bed, if you spilled coffee, a lot of things can quickly downward spiral, and you have a bad day because of the one, sort of negative event that happened. Or you can choose to have a completely different thought process around it. Oh, well, I spilled, let me go change my shirt. And the rest of the day can turn out completely in a different scenario if we choose to look at the particular situation that we're in from a different perspective. So there's always two sides of the coin. There's always different ways to view what's going on in your life, but it's up to you to make that decision. And so when you get stuck in a position and those negative thoughts start to come, you're doing less for yourself. You're doing less to put other people at the forefront of your mind. You can get stuck in just that woe me or just a negative energy. But the more that you can shift that and have that attitude of gratitude, setting those intention statements, thinking about ways that you can just keep doing for other people. If you're in a negative funk, go do something positive for someone else, because that's going to internally sort of reward you, because they're going to smile and they're going to say thank you, and you're going to impact their day. So whatever's happening in your life, and no matter how hard it gets or whatever's happening, I think the biggest thing that we can constantly do is just kind of check ourselves and say, hey, what can I do to just think about the situation in a little bit of a different format or in a different way? It doesn't mean that you disregard what's going on. It doesn't mean that you write it off. It just says, hey, this is the situation. It's going to be this way. How do I choose to think about it? How do I choose to address it and approach it? What can I do? Not how can I not do it, or how is it not going to serve me, but what can I do to make it better or make a positive impact on someone else? And so I think continuously working on that, because there were a lot of times over the last 3.5 years that I could easily get sucked into the negativity in my work environment, get sucked into all kinds of other stressors or things going on, and make the excuses and say, I'm not in the mood to call someone now, or, you know, it's too hard, I'm too exhausted. And that constant learning, and it took time to really recognize when I'm in that negative funk, and what can I do to help myself get out of it. But by pouring into others, it just comes back full circle, full force. And I think even in this last week, obviously with the run to 3-star, it was no matter what, if I'm feeling like I'm hitting a wall or it's not happening, find something else, not even just a phone call to pick up to reach out about Isagenix, but just do something. Call someone, send a thank you note, go to Starbucks and pay for someone's coffee. I mean, anything to just keep that energy out there. It really does come back full circle.
So agree. And I love just hearing you say that. And you guys, that's something that I've really actually seen Rachel do over the last 3.5 years. You know, Eric Worre will talk about entrepreneurs get bad hours at best. We don't get bad days, and we surely don't get bad weeks. You know, and if you get yourself in a funk and you're not calling people and you're not following up with people or any of that, you know, you never get the momentum, you never get the inertia, the velocity to get that airplane up in the air off the runway, you know? You're always kind of taking off and pulling back and taking off and pulling back. And because of, you know, I consistently for 3.5 years watched Rachel get up early. She always did her follow-ups. She always did her messages. She was always adding people to testimonials. She always got to those events. That there was definitely things happening, whether they be at home or with her corporate America job or her health. You know, there were some things, and she was consistent, and that's really, really important. And when you, I think, master servant leadership, you get that you are doing a disservice to people, you know, when you get wrapped up in your own heads instead of showing up in a way to serve, to contribute, to bless, to pay it forward. And the thing that, if we make it more like a business, that I think it's really important for you guys to hear about this, is if you had a job, you know, if you could be hired, if you could be fired, and there was quotas you had to meet, and there were certain income producing activities, there were certain tasks you had to do, you would do them. You know, and I've used the example, like, I mean, I was in a rocky relationship before Isagenix. I was working all these jobs, and I remember leaving the house, bawling, crying my eyes out, you know, driving to work, thinking the last thing I want to do is go do 10 hours of nutrition therapy. But I had to put my big girl pants on, drink my coffee, smile, and get through the day, because that was the only way I was going to make money. And if I called in sick, I was going to lose $500 that day of not seeing clients. And so that's a mental toughness that I've always had, because I used to exchange time for money. I didn't have sick days. I didn't have paid time off, right? Like, I always had to figure out how to make it happen, that I've been able to weather my emotions through this business. And not everybody comes in with that mindset, you know, and if you're used to being an employee and someone telling you what to do, or you're someone who's been fortunate enough to have benefits, sometimes you are comfortable enough to not keep pushing through. And when it gets tough, you know, when you're being challenged the most, those breakdowns elicit breakthroughs, you know, and when the noise in your head is getting the greatest is when you've got to keep pushing through. But that perseverance that Rachel had, that mental grit, you know, that tenacity, that toughness, that no matter what was going to happen. I mean, there was times we're sisters, you guys, of course we fight. I mean, she's my best friend in the whole world, but there were days that we were upset with each other. And guess what? She came to Ignite Your Life anyways. She didn't avoid me, you know, because she knew that someone's story was going to inspire her to keep going. Or, you know, no matter how tired she was, she put out her business hours together and told her husband, you know what, Wednesday night is Ignite Your Life, but we're going to have date nights on Thursday. Like, there were those boundaries and there was that consistency. And I think that that is something that's so important for all of you guys to get, that if you want to have hobby money, treat this hobby money. But if you're inspired by Rachel's story and you want to be able to not have to work 40 years before you can retire, you know, and you want to be able to be a 6-figure income earner, or even just on that journey beforehand, know that the consistency is key. And no matter what funks you're in and what things is happening, if you can treat this, you know, especially while you're building it, with certain goals or certain action steps that are your must-have, you will see success right away. One of the blessings of network marketing is that you can build something so solid that it will pay you over and over and over and over, that God forbid something should happen, but you don't have that luxury until you build it. So I've seen, one of my closest friends in the company, someone we were on President's Quest with, her daughter was recently diagnosed with leukemia. The Saturday before they went into hospital, on that Monday, she was on stage talking about residual income and how you never know, you know, what's going to happen, and that you're building this because if you're ever not working or whatever, that you have a safety net. 48 hours later, they're admitting their little girl into Children's Hospital with leukemia. Guess who's not working right now? She's not. But guess who's built a solid business, right? So sometimes keeping that picture of like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad this guy didn't call me back, or oh my gosh, I had a bad day at work, or oh my gosh, I'm just too tired, I want to watch a movie. Be willing to make the short-term sacrifices that yield the long-term rewards. And that is the one thing I can give Rachel, you know, praise and kudos that I saw her do over and over. I mean, I literally, you guys, to be totally transparent, we would do Sunday Fun Day. And we were having a great time. And she was like, no, I got to stop. I got to get home. I got to call these people. I've got a launch party. I've got 3-way calls. And I was like, okay, I should really be supportive about this. You know, and I would be like, no, we should have fun. I'm thinking like, okay, she wants to go home and work. She, you know, this is what she's doing, that she balanced that. You know, she went out and had 2 Bloody Marys and she got on the elliptical and then she worked for 4 hours. I mean, that's how she did this. And everybody's going to structure it differently, but that consistency is key. So the last question, and then if you have any final statements or any words of, you know, inspiration or encouragement to share, I'd love for you to just close out the call. But talk about this idea of not dragging people and what it feels like to work with those that want it and work with those that are working with you instead of trying to pull people that are just not ready.
I was actually just going to say, can I chime in with that? Because I thought maybe we were wrapping up, because that's huge. And the blue in me, the willingness or the desire to want to help people, that has been definitely a hard thing. And I know from day one have had plenty of people that I want this more for them than they clearly want for themselves, and that it truly is just a timing, that no matter what, when people say they're ready, it just has to be when they say it's ready and not when I think it's ready for them. And when you're really trying to pull so hard and you see it for them and you can see how it can change their life, but they're not ready, you are working so hard. And those follow-up calls and the consistently, well, no, not now, or the excuses and the pushback, just that again gets into that negative mindset. You get discouraged. There's a lot of things that you continue to sort of bring up what you don't want. And if you were to convince them or persuade them when they're not ready, then they end up signing up and returning and not having a good experience anyway. So there's nothing good that comes from really trying to drag people into it. Instead, recognize that you will always be there for them. The moment that something changes in their life, just make sure you're the person that they think of to pick up the phone and to call when they are ready, because the moment they're ready, they will run with it because they've made the decision and they're putting the commitment on themselves to make it happen. And like I said, I've had people now 3 years later, Kelly Pace, who I know isn't on the call right now, but is going to watch the recording, is one of the very first people that I ever introduced to. It was not for her then, and it wasn't the right time. But when she called me 2 months ago now and said, I'm ready, dude, that girl's on fire. She's going to hit Crystal Manager in a matter of days. And I mean, she is just soaring with it. Erin Bear is another one on this. Like, you have got to be there for when people say that they're ready. But when the ones that are there and they're giving you that engagement and they're, you know, sharing and conversing and asking questions and how do I do this and what's next, and even questions on the products, whatever it may be, put your energy there, put your commitment to them, and trust that the other people, as much as you want it for them, will come around when they say yes. But it really is no fun. It's no fun to drag people around, and it's way more fun to run with the ones that do. And then this whole new broad network of people that they're connected to, that they're inspiring, open up, and it's a ripple effect in the right direction.
That's awesome. You guys, and I mean, even just working with Rachel, there was times that I was going for my own rank advancements, or I was doing things, I was trying to get some people to run with me, you know, and Rachel wasn't there. You know, she either didn't have the time, she wasn't in her journey, she wasn't motivated by something, she didn't have the belief. There were things, and I was totally pushing her, and it was like, but when she made that decision, with or without me, she was doing that, you know, like, yes, was able to help her plant some seeds or lay the tracks of what that would look like, having done it, but she was going, you know, and sometimes it's just really fun. It's like, we're going to love on people. We're going to support all of our product users. You know, if you're cycling one time a week, you know, that's a couple $100s a month. That's a few $1,000s a year. I mean, that's incredible. Celebrate the freaking mess out of that. Imagine if someone took that away, you know, from you. If you're cycling 5 times a week, you're cycling 10 times a week, 2 times a week, you know, whatever that is. I mean, I think when I first got started, I was like, this is going to be supplemental income. This is going to be part-time. It's going to, you know, make it that I don't have to work 7 days a week. I don't always have to work overtime. I didn't foresee this coming. Rachel didn't foresee this coming either, but we saw so many people go first, you know, bartenders, teachers, occupational therapists, whatever it was, that were able to do this and really set their families free. And that's what drove her. That's what motivated her. You guys, I know Rachel so well. I can tell you right now, Start 1000 is not what motivated her. And I haven't even had the raw conversation that I finally really got to what did kick her into gear. That's not it, right? But it was something that she could put her fingers on. It was something that was tangible and something that she knew could drive hundreds of thousands of people in the way to come. That if there's anything that I would love for you to take away from this, you know, she's talking about being consistent with talking to people, with following up, with getting to events, with personal development, with doing your intention statements, with doing the vision, having your belief, you know, all of those things. But the one thing that I see Rachel doing the most that I want you guys to take with you is that leaders go first. And when she stepped into this, you know, and she was in Mexico, guess what? She couldn't plug into Ignite Your Life anymore. So she started doing her own in another country, you know. There was this idea that, you know, she was doing this full time, and where she kind of used to crutch on me, it was like, well, Lauren can do it, or Lauren can help. I have this other job, or I have my husband. She was like, okay, I'm out of that excuse. And she started developing her team. And I saw Rachel's switch into her leadership as she was the responsible one, and people were coming to her and saying, it's because of you this has happened. It is because of you my business is changing. Thank you, Rachel, for XYZ. And I watched her develop Casey and Anishka and Kendra and Wesley and Eric and Christina and all these people, right? And Rachel had more time, and she was giving into so many people she's not even financially connected to. Rachel never asks me, are they in my downline? Are they in my tree? If she's available, she helps. And I watched her, and I saw people thanking her, and it built her belief in what she was doing, that the skill set not only she had, but the impact she was having. And it was a matter of, get out of my way. I'm a 6-figure income earner. I'm a leader in this company because of the legacy she's having and the impact she's having. So don't wait for anybody to go first, you guys. Get rock solid. Why the heck do you want this? What is it going to look like? What are you willing to do to make it happen? And do not let any judgment from anybody, even if it's in your immediate family, put the brakes on your dreams and goals. So, Rachel, if you could see my Facebook messages right now and text messages of the feedback coming in, I mean, this is so raw. This is so real. It's so inspirational. We love your authenticity. We love your integrity, and just so proud of you. So congratulations, you guys. I'm going to unmute the line for you guys to just, oh wait, Rachel has one thing to say.
I have to give one final thank you to each and every one of you, certainly in the Dreamers in Action team, but Isagenix as a whole. I think the other biggest thing that I've always loved about this company specifically is it is truly, it's gonna make me cry, truly a one-team approach. It is not at all about what's in it for me. It's not, am I gonna do this only because they're financially linked or it's gonna help me to cycle. People came out of the woodworks last week, definitely not financially linked to me, asking, can they place orders? Can they help to run to help boost those cycles? I mean, at any point, any one of you I know has been super willing to just hop on a call to do whatever you can to help someone. And none of us ever think twice, like Lauren said, what's it gonna be in it for me? And like I said, to the day I die, I would do this if I never made a dime, but because of the community and the friendships I've made and just how much. So please ever, no matter what, just don't ever lose sight of that one team approach, and always remember that the culture that we have, that we're gonna make network marketing the best business ever to be involved with because of our company. So then, thank you very much. That's it.
So awesome. All right, you guys, I'm going to unmute, and I want you guys to just make some noise and send some love and, you know, for everything Rachel shared, and definitely just some big, huge congratulations. So as soon as I can figure out how to unmute everybody. Being all weird.
That's okay. It wasn't so bad.
There you go. All right, you guys are unmuted.
Good job, Ray.
Good, Rachel.
Nice job, you guys. Thank you so much. Have a terrific Tuesday. We'll get the recording up and listen to it over and over and pass it on. Good night, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.